All right, let's break it down. Jessica, let me ask you this. Great to have you back here on Law&Crime, by the way. What do you think the prosecution's strongest argument here is against the defendant? Is it the fact that she lied, that she admitted to hitting the girl? What strikes out for you? Stands out for you, I should say.
Well, basically that she admitted to hitting her, that she admitted that she fell and in the driveway and hit her head. So I think that's basically the strongest argument that they have, that this was caused during the time that Hannah was with the babysitter. I do have a problem in that, this was the second interview where the defendant admitted to, okay, well, maybe she did fall. Maybe, well, I did hit her. And that's usually what happens after you're scared and, the detectives are questioning you. The girl's now dead. Maybe, go back. What happened? And when you look at what the father did as well, right? The father lied as well to the detectives. That's usually what happens when you're getting questioned by detectives because you're scared. You're trying to come up with reasons. How could this happen? So it's definitely their strongest argument, but also the defense has their arguments as well.
Jury doesn't like people that lie, I'll tell you that much. And, when she was in that interview, we were all watching. And you know who was really seizing on the different inconsistent statements made by the defendant? The prosecution. Jessica, I think she's trying to show just how ridiculous the statements are from the defendant. Do you like the style that she's using to explain this in her closing argument?
Yeah, absolutely. She's making it seem, listen, this woman is a liar. She keeps making things up. She wasn't upset. She's breaking down her demeanor. And if she loved Hannah, and that's what she said, she's babysat Hannah, why wouldn't she cry? She's a mother herself. She's looking at pictures. Right. So that does say a lot. And again, like you said, the jurors don't like liars. Was it a mistake for her to testify? Absolutely. I would never, ever have my client testify because you never know why a juror is not going to like a person. Maybe she didn't like her outfit. Maybe she didn't like her hair. All the little small nuances that people look when they're observing you and when they're trying to see your demeanor and who you are and what you're saying or if you're lying. So I would never do that just because I don't want those problems. I mean, for me, she basically fed right into the charges. She said she hit the girl, but she didn't think this would get her in trouble. I don't think she realized how serious it was. But the state doesn't have to prove that she intended to kill her. That's right. They just have to show abuse, right? Absolutely. That's why I would have never. I think that usually when your client wants to testify, that's their decision, and they really want to testify. I think most defense attorneys do not want their clients to testify because of exactly what I said. You just don't know how your client is going to come off, and everybody's different. Sometimes people are not criers. Sometimes people are just stoic, and you don't want the jury to see that because they might think, well, this person did it or did not. But I wonder how much was she trying to rehabilitate herself after those bad police interviews? Okay, we saw those police interviews, not so great for me. Let me come on the stand and I'll fix everything. Did it work? I don't think that it worked. Number one, I think because of the different the inconsistent statements, the jury's already going to be not believing her because why would she do this? And why would she lie? Although, again, I keep going back to her dad lied as well because sometimes that just happens. I mean, there's books written on people admit to crimes they didn't commit. So although her inconsistent statements to me does not mean that she did not do it or did do it, but I know that the jury doesn't like that. Well, I suppose what makes this case unique is you have such a young victim, and really this is a situation where she was in the care of really two people, and I think the jury is trying to find out the truth of what happened to this girl one way or another, and the question is, did the prosecution put enough forward to say that this is all in the hands of one person, or did the defense say, hey, listen, maybe there's something else that happened. Maybe it was the responsibility of somebody else. We're going to have to see. Okay, but Jessica, in all fairness, is this somebody who just was trying to really understand what happened those days? She's in police interrogation. It could get pretty chaotic. Or is this somebody who's lying and trying to figure out what
to protect herself?
You know, I always look at things with a defense eye.
Sure, I'm not surprised by that.
So it could go either way. I think in my experience with my clients, yeah, they get very scared. So they're just trying to explain things. They're trying to make the detectives happy. That, okay, well, maybe this happened. Maybe this is why. I remember now falling. I remember when I grabbed her. I remember. So just trying to come up with ways of how this could have happened. Not that I did it intentionally, right? So that's how I'm looking at it. Again, you know, just looking at the case, I look at dad, right? He's a single dad. He didn't have food at the house, right? He also lied and told the detectives I went to Walmart and got food, and he didn't. You know, could she have fallen with him because, you know, it's dad, and dad's not going to be looking at her all the time. So when I look at this, I don't know what happened. Just because she gave inconsistent statements, I don't know the answer to that. She could have been making the detectives happy, which is what happens a lot.
Yeah, and she mentioned that. She said she was trying to tell the detectives what they wanted to hear. We're going to have a chance to talk about what exactly that means, talking about those inconsistent stories from the defendant. But Jessica, I want to harp upon what you just said. One of the things the defendant said on the stand was she felt pressured to give the detectives what they wanted to hear, and they wouldn't listen to her. Based upon what you saw in this case, is this a case of improper police tactics or pressure?
No, I wouldn't say improper. It's exactly what they do.
Right.
It's what they do to get
so
somebody to commit.
That.
Unfortunately, no. It's exactly what they do.
Okay, if that wasn't the standard, I was looking at this with fresh eyes. Is there anything that they coerced her to make these statements? She made these statements. She knew her rights. She was read her Miranda rights.
For sure, she was read her Miranda rights. We all know our rights, right, and what we're supposed to do, but and it happens all the time, and you're in a locked room by yourself, and you have detectives looking at you, and they want answers. And this was a tragedy. This is terrible. And it usually happens that way. Well, let me see. Let me think of ways, or let me think of something that happened. No, I remember this. Maybe that's how she got the bruise. Well, and then you start talking and talking and talking. Well, I did poke her. I did slap her because I was mad at her. So it's just usually what happens when you're being questioned. It happens all the time. But
they have to tie those acts of violence to the actual injuries here, and they can't just convict her based upon her being untruthful. Jessica, I mean, that's a good point. Who was she trying to protect?
Yeah, that one's a difficult one. When I heard her say that, I thought she was trying to protect Hannah's father. And, you know, again, he's a young father, a single father. Maybe he's not looking after his daughter correctly. She's dirty, right? Or she's not fed. She comes. So maybe I thought that's what she meant. But then when she brought her husband into it, I don't know why she would be trying to protect her husband. Where did that come from? Why? Unless maybe her husband had something to do with it. Maybe the child fell around her husband. Maybe I'm not. That part is definitely troublesome.
You know, the part that's strange to me is she starts the day by saying, when she was on the stand, I never injured this girl, never injured this girl. But then later on admits that the form of discipline she gave was hitting, that she would shake this girl. She'd slap her on the side of the face. She would hit her under the chin with a closed fist. So is a jury supposed to reconcile this? Do they have to really attach, well, she may have hit her, but did she really cause these injuries we're talking about? Am I looking at this the right way?
Well, yeah, no, it's definitely problematic because it is a child, and you're not supposed to, hitting a child with an undercut or uppercut in the chin. So that's definitely problematic, but you're allowed to discipline children, right? That is in our legal right. And because you're disciplining a child, you're also injuring them to the point. It must have been a very hard impact, right? Because there was brain swelling there. The child died. So you can discipline a child, but I don't know how to correlate that she actually killed this child.
Another way of looking at it is that she hit her, but didn't realize how serious the injury would be. Again, that just falls right into the prosecution's argument. Yeah, what did that mean? I didn't think I was going to get in trouble for that. At one point, the ketchup incident, she says, look, she's questioned about it on the stand. No, I didn't hit her, but I made it up because I had a friend who did something similar and I thought it wouldn't get me in trouble. I mean, what is she saying about that?
I think she's nervous. She's nervous, and she's trying to just come up with. And it's again, I go back to it's exactly what happens when you're being questioned. Well, let me give them something because I can't leave. The child died. How can I did discipline her. I'll let you know how I disciplined her. Maybe that's what caused. It wasn't me. If this little girl ever said anything to her dad that she was hit, yeah, I'm giving you, I did discipline her. So I'm not really sure, again, why people do this. There's books written on it, or on why people make things up, especially being questioned, why people admit to crimes they didn't commit, right? So I'm not really sure where she's going with this, except to give them something. Give them something so I can leave.
Welcome back to Law&Crime, everybody. We're talking about a lot of different trials here on the network right now. We're going to jump back into Partin in a minute, but our focus right now is going to be on the John Johnchuk case out of Florida. There was a development in court today, and it all concerns the testimony of Dr. Emily Lazarow. She is the state's rebuttal witness, the state's witness who said something different than any of the other experts who testified, that in her opinion, that she believes John Johnchuk, the defendant, who she interviewed on 2 separate occasions at the state hospital, is actually making up the symptoms of mental illness, possibly to get this insanity defense to work for him. Now, this is something called malingering. It's something we always think about whenever we hear the insanity defense being played out in court. But here she bases her opinion on her interviews with him. So, Jessica, when we saw this, how effective is that? I mean, this is a big statement to make. She was on for quite some time. The defense tried to discount what she said. What do you make of this argument?
Well, I think that she was definitely biased.
What makes you say that?
Well, I mean, she went in already with her. Well, first of all, she's the only one, right? Out of all these experts are saying there's nothing wrong with him. I think that she went in with that attitude. I think that that's why they beat her up so much. She has, she's made almost $1 million, right? Working and being an expert witness for the state. She knows that if she doesn't give them the right reports, she's not going to have a job anymore, correct? She is, everything about her questioning, her style of questioning was just very biased. And she deserved to be beat up because this is, they're admitting that he did it, right? It's just, was he insane at the time that he did it? So she definitely deserved to be beat up because it's a war of the experts.
She did a Facebook post where she said about John Johnchuk, this was, before his trial, the lengths opposing counsel will go to get me off of the case are astounding. Their tactics are despicable, but it's part of my work. That's an inappropriate comment to make.
Absolutely. And even crying in the stand, getting annoyed. She definitely, for me, has lost a lot of credibility just in her style, just in her testimony. Again, she's volunteers as a teacher. She doesn't written 3 articles. Like, they're really beating her up in that she's, as we say, she's a quack. She's not a real doctor.
So the defense obviously questioned her. They grilled her.
Oh,
okay?
Yes, but, absolutely.
They went through her tapes, her taped interviews with John Johnchuk, pointed to facts. Why'd you ask him this? What do you do? But one of the things is that we thought that they were going to call Dr. Ryan Wagoner, who's board certified in both psychiatry and forensic psychiatry. He reviewed Dr. Lazarow's interviews with Johnchuk, and he said that he felt it was coercive, judgmental, leading. He said that she's not herself board certified in forensic psychiatry. But we learned, if we heard it correctly, that he is not going to be called by the defense in the rebuttal case. We believe that they are going to call somebody. Why do you think they wouldn't call him?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know that he's an older gentleman, correct? So I don't know.
I believe so.
I don't know if just logistically maybe he can't appear because from what I understand, he was deposed, correct? I mean, he didn't appear
Yes,
live.
he was deposed.
So that happens sometimes where we can't get our clients, especially doctors, to come in. So we have to do it by video. So that could be a reason why. But his testimony and his background, he's definitely, you know, a real doctor, right? He's board certified. He's very respected. He's written all the articles. He's the doctor that you want to be able to come in and do the rebuttal.
One thing that adds to this is the fact that there was a statement that was allowed in, the jury heard, that John Chuck allegedly made years ago, 12, 15 years ago, that said if he ever got in trouble, he would claim insanity. What do you make of that? And let's also talk about the fact that our viewers know this guy has had quite the extensive record. Mm-hmm. He has been in and out of the criminal justice system, and he has been accused of being evil and manipulative. So what do you think? Is it possible he is making up everything we're seeing?
But we also know that he also has a lot of mental issues as well, and he's been throughout his life, absolutely. And that's exactly what happens. People with mental illness also get into the criminal system.
Sure.
It just goes hand in hand. So you can't just point that he's a criminal and not look at his mental history, which he definitely has.
Well, she's claiming, and let's just make it clear, someone could have mental illness. It doesn't mean they're insane. She kept pointing to the fact, Dr. Lazarow, that he knew what he was doing. He was conscious of this. You know, when he made comments that he was planning to kill Phoebe, he understood it. And the biggest point of all, why would he run away from the police if he didn't know what he was, if he, you know, thought what he was doing was okay?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know, mental illness and being insane, people act differently. We don't know. We can't sit here and, you know, dissect his actions and then say he's not insane or he's normal. We just don't know. But I think that, you know, everything, looking at his past hospitals and his past mental illness and the comment that he made 12 years ago, I mean, you know, I don't necessarily think that because he made that comment, he is using that today. At
the end of the day, he's accused of throwing his daughter off a bridge, so everybody's looking at him with a certain kind of perspective.
That is insane.
And let me ask you this. I mean, I guess the strongest point for the insanity, besides the strange comments that he made with the Bible and, you know, wanting to get a baptism, the idea that he would throw his daughter off the bridge right in front of a police officer and say, you have no free will. How do you think about that?
That is insane. That is insanity at its best.
I mean, why would you do that? Unless he thought that the officer wasn't going to arrest him, but then why drive away from the police? Unless they could say he thought they were demons or something that he didn't realize. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the standard is you have to not know what you did was wrong.
Correct.
That's the last prong. What does that mean? That he didn't know that what he did was against the law?
That too. I mean, that he was doing what he did is he doesn't know if it was wrong, if it was right, whether it was in front of the law, in front of whoever. He just can't know that what he's doing is right.
So let me ask you this. If the defense says in their closing argument, look, he knew he was going to kill his daughter. I mean, there's discussion about that if he really knew what he was doing. But let's say he knew he was going to kill his daughter. He felt it was the right thing to do because she was possessed. Mm-hmm. He knew there would be consequences to this. He knew it's against the law. Is that still insanity?
I
tough
think
question,
that is a very tough question because it sounds like somebody's actually thinking it through, but they're thinking something that's insane. They're thinking through something that makes no sense, and they're killing their own child. So to me, that's insane.
You have to be conscious of that, right? I mean, the insanity defense, you don't want it for everybody because otherwise they're going to spend the rest of their life in a mental institution as opposed to prison. And isn't there a slight chance that they could be released from a mental health hospital? Or they wouldn't go to prison once they're rehabilitated?
No. Usually what happens is, especially if they've murdered somebody, they do stay in there forever. I mean, especially for murders.
And I don't mean to sound like I don't mean to make light of this, and we only have 30 seconds. Even if they're, even if they come to realize what is going on and the symptoms of mental illness are cured in a way?
No, I don't think that they will. If you've murdered somebody, especially a child, they're not going to release you.
Okay, so it's just a determination of where he would spend the rest of his life. Well, we got a long way to go. There's a lot more issues in John Chuck. Let me just get a quick perspective from Jessica Ramirez, who's joining us again. Jessica, okay, what would be what's the argument to release this video? What is the argument on the behalf of the state to have this video released?
Just to embarrass him, really. I mean, I don't know what other legal reasons they would have. They have the documents, they have the videos, they have the charges. Why to embarrass, to maybe have people, listen, if you do this again, we will put the video out there and embarrass you.
Is it a pressure for him to take a plea deal?
Absolutely. Yes, to pressure him and to embarrass and to, you know, you do this, we might do this to you.
I'm sorry, are you assuming all of America will want to watch the the alleged Robert Kraft tape?
Not me, but it would be very interesting.
I mean, this thing posts online, everybody's going to want to watch it to see.
I will watch.
It seems, though, the defense has a strong argument here. How fair is it to have their client? I mean, first of all, this is a key piece of evidence. Why on earth should it be allowed outside of a courtroom?
That's right.
I don't understand. Again, there's got to be some justification, and we're waiting to hear what happens. He's not in the courtroom. I believe under Florida law, he doesn't have to appear. Were you surprised that he agreed to fight this and not take a plea deal?
Yes, absolutely. I thought that he would try to take a plea deal so he's not out there. It's too much going on. It's out in the public. It's an embarrassment. He is married. He has kids.
Right. Okay, there's some interesting points being made. Jessica, is he a credible witness, or is the state, doing a good job of showing he just assumed a lot and maybe he is biased?
I mean, I definitely think he's biased. He's dad, right? He's going to protect his son. So I don't think that he's going to be a credible witness. But at the same time, we know that his son stabbed Todd. We know this happened. So it's really, was it self-defense or not?
And that's the main question. What are the strongest arguments, in your opinion, for self-defense here?
Well, the fact that there was 3 guys that came to the house in the middle of the night, that's very scary to anyone. And these guys are huge guys, I mean, giants, right? I think that the defendant was 5'7". These guys are almost 7 feet tall. And then there's 3 of them. So that's very, very scary. And then there's the law. The law does state, the Iowa Stand Your Ground law does state that if you could use deadly force, if you think that someone, whether it's real or not, if it's reasonable and you think you're going to be attacked, you can use deadly force.
Real quick, I want to ask you real quick, since he had a knife and the victim didn't, can you still have self-defense?
Yes. I mean, he thought he was going to be killed. He's
Wow.
7 feet tall. He was a giant.
Interesting case. We don't know which way this one's going to go. Jessica Ramirez, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And make sure to come back again soon.